Hey, what's up, guys? This is Rich, and I'm here with Audrey.
Hey, everyone.
And you probably read Audrey's review, but you might be thinking to yourself, well, I'm not sure about Fire Emblem because I'm not sure if I can play it well. Or maybe you know Fire Emblem pretty well, but you want to learn how to play it better. Well, we're here for you.
Yeah, we've got 10 tips, just sort of basic strategies to help you get into the Fire Emblem mindset. And yeah, let's kick right off. The first one to keep in mind is that in Fire Emblem, dead is dead.
Yeah.
If you guys die, if you're playing on classic mode, they're going to stay dead. So if you are worried about that, you think that's too intimidating, you can always start the game in casual mode. That means your guys won't stay dead. They'll come back even after they die in battle. You can only select this at the beginning of the game. So if you think this is going to be a problem for you, set that to casual so that you can get through the game.
Yeah, I would say if you guys want the full experience, like if you're concerned about that, then definitely go casual. But if you want the full experience and to like understand why I think both of us really love it,
classic.
Give it a shot. I mean, it really changes the strategy, because then all of your moves matter versus, casual where you're like, eh.
Yeah, and it's called classic for a reason. That's how Fire Emblem is meant to be played. But if you try it and you just can't get past a battle, you can't get over people dying, go back and start it on casual so you can enjoy the experience.
Yep, for sure.
All right, up next, it's good to keep in mind that leveling up is something of a limited resource in Fire Emblem. So don't just have your Frederick or your main guy go and take all the XP. You need to level up your healers, you need to level up your archers, because, there are only so many guys to kill. There are DLC maps, there are random people who show up on the field, but you just need to be careful so that you don't have like a few really high-level people, but everyone else is going to die in one hit later on.
That's a really good note, especially about Frederick in particular, actually, is because he's actually a more advanced class than all the rest of your people, that, especially in the first, 10 chapters or so.
There's usually someone like that in a Fire Emblem game, like it was Seth in Sacred Stones.
Yeah,
but
and he'll basically absorb all the XP, and where, someone like,
like Varian or an Archer or something.
Yeah, your main character, like my character is called Frost, he'll get 30 XP from killing somebody, but Frederick's only going to get 10 XP because he's that more advanced state.
And he can kill most people in one hit, so no one else gets XP from that guy if Frederick goes in.
Yeah, so just be careful. Frederick is interesting because I think I kept him in reserve a lot just to make sure that I could get my XP spread amongst my other people and get them up to where Frederick's level is. Now where I'm at in the game, it's like, okay, now Frederick can fight alongside everyone else, and they're all equal.
Even if he stays lower level for a while, he's so powerful that it doesn't matter. So just level up your other people first. You can even, if you want, just have your smaller guys go in and pick off XP or the points from the HP from the guys, and then have Frederick come in and kill them. That's a good way to level up your
I would say though the one note about that is killing gets you more XP than damaging.
Exactly. So if you can have one of your lower level guys finish someone off, that's really the way to do it.
Yep.
Cool. Next, location is key in Fire Emblem. You got to think about where you're positioning your people. If it's in the line of fire for one of the enemies, the cool thing about his is you can toggle on and off the attack range of all your enemies, or even just highlight specific guys and see how far they can attack. And you need to be really, really good about paying attention to this, because you don't want your healer to be out in the open and then suddenly she's dead and you have to restart.
Always do a sanity check. I can't tell you. I've restarted one particular battle 3 times because I'll be just smashing people with I've got this wyvern rider with this giant hammer, and I'm just like, die. But then I always forget that there's this horse-mounted archer, and he comes right in. So and definitely double check not only where are your enemies, but what kind of enemies are over there. What are they strong against? What are you weak against? Don't move your wyvern in the range of an archer that can literally kill a rider, a winged rider, in one hit.
Exactly.
That's the sort of stuff that, at least for me, always punishes me, is when I'm like, I can totally move this guy here. Oh wait, he's totally weak to the axe wielding guy right over there. And also, maybe you'll mention this in a bit, but there's the whole triangle between axes, swords, and lances.
Exactly. So be mindful of that. And like you said a second ago, even if you have a Pegasus Knight or a Wyvern Rider who can travel really far, be careful, because you don't want to put them all alone on a side of the map where there are 4 guys who are going to attack them and they have no backup. Because even if they're pretty good, that means they're going to die. So be careful. Even if you can mobilize them really far, it's not always a good idea.
Yeah. Keep your guys close together too. I know one of the things that I keep an eye on is if I have someone who's weak, I try and make sure that they're blocked off by other other characters.
And another thing, keep in mind, like, say you get your healer down to 1 HP and she's in big trouble, like, you can pair her up with someone, and then she'll be protected from damage, and she'll just sort of lend support. She'll up their attack or speed or whatever.
And
so
also,
there are ways around it if they're in danger's way.
And one more thing, no, but there are also abilities that'll protect some of your guys from dying. Though, if they have a critical hit that'll kill them, they'll go down to 1 HP. So you can. That's a little bit of an insurance policy, though I don't recommend relying on that.
Yeah, but basically the point is, think about your location, think about who you're putting where, and you'll be okay.
Yep.
The next tip is to plan ahead. I mean, if you're new to strategy RPG, this is something you might not be used to. It's not like an RPG where you can sort of only plan for that attack. You have to think 10 steps ahead, like come up with a strategy in advance and then put it into action. Think about where the enemies are likely to move the next couple of turns, and just try and visualize the possible outcomes of everything.
Yeah, and I mean, I think one of the things I always like to pay attention to in terms of several moves ahead is, when am I going to sort of attract the aggro of my enemies, because sometimes they'll just be lurking off in the distance, and I always find that it's better to move incrementally and assume that they're going to start coming at me, and really start paying attention to. There's also levels where reinforcements for the enemy will pop up in fortresses and stuff like that.
And once you know that, if you restart the battle, you know to plan for that.
Exactly.
Or even like sometimes, again, if you have the little red area showing with their attack range, you can sort of plan to draw them closer by keeping all of your guys out of their attack range so that they're forced to move closer to you.
Yep.
And then instead of spreading your guys out, you're sort of bringing them to you, so you can pick them off.
One of the things I'll do is sort of like planning in advance is I'll send someone like Frederick out into the thick of the enemies to piss them off and get them all riled up.
Yeah, because he can take quite a few hits.
He'll take a beating, and then I can kind of bring him back, and they'll come to me, and I'll have my little master plan set up or whatever.
Be careful of that, because he can die. I know it sounds crazy, but
don't let him die.
Yeah.
Cool.
The next one is don't underestimate the importance of archers, magicians, because even though, especially archers, they can be really hard to level up at first because they're so weak. The defense is not their strong point, but you need ranged people on your team. You need an archer, you need a magician or two, because they're just scenarios where you need to be able to attack from a distance. Strategically, you need to be able to surround someone, but then also have someone attacking them from a distance to finish them off.
Yeah, and archers can take out, like we were saying earlier, like there are a lot of winged riders, and especially the enemies carry a lot of winged riders, and you can take them out in basically one hit with a decent enough archer.
And there are bows you can find that let you shoot 3 spaces ahead, and that's invaluable. So it's really hard to do at first, but level those guys up, give them as much XP as you can, because if you can even get them to be one of your higher level people, then even if they get attacked a couple times, they won't instantly die. They'll be able to hold their own.
Yeah, I'm actually having trouble getting my archers really aggressively leveled up, but I'm using a lot of mages. Yeah,
that's why I've been leveling up Virion, the archer, and awakening.
Right there.
Exactly. I don't usually let people die. This is just for capture, but yeah, I don't usually let him die. But anyway, I made it a point to level him up from the very beginning, because I know in Fire Emblem how important archers are. So just right from the get-go, get that guy some experience points.
For sure. What's next?
Next is strength and numbers. Like, if you have so we were talking about the archer. If you want to level him up, but he's not really strong enough to be on his own, like, move him along with Frederick, so Frederick can sort of help protect him. Keep people grouped together. If there are a bunch of enemies on this side of the map, but only 1 or 2 on this side, put most of your guys where they need to be. It's better to keep them all together, so that, like, another good thing about that is if you have a bunch of people together, then it's more likely that the enemies will attack a variety of people instead of honing in on just one person, and then they're likely to die.
That's gotten me into a lot of trouble where I have a decent enough powerful character, say, let's just use Frederick again, I move him out, and then it is sort of, oh wait, the numbers game overwhelms me. Like, he'll take out a few, but he keeps getting hit over and over and over, and he'll quickly fall. I mean, one of the cool things, though, about sort of your safety in numbers idea is that you can create sort of like, when we're talking about these ranged guys, you can create like a defensive barrier of your like big brute guys, and keep your ranged people behind them, and you're using your numbers to your advantage. You're using some of your troops to block attacks, and then you can actually have the ranged guys hit over them and get that experience.
That's especially useful on maps where there are like bridges or something, where you can use your big
choke point, basically.
Yeah, you can use your big hulking guys to sort of block the enemies from progressing too far. You can have your ranged guys right behind them, knocking down HP. So just think about keeping your guys together in a smart way. The next, and we've sort of talked about this a little, but is to protect the weak. I mean, especially your healers. Keep them out of harm's way. Don't let them get in the enemy attack range. And, like, you do want to get your weak guys to have XP, obviously, but not at the expense of them dying.
Yeah, one of my formations are so often formed based on my weak people. So it'll be, and I usually create little pluses basically where the middle is my healer, and then the four spots around them in a plus pattern are my stronger attackers.
Yeah, one thing to be careful about is make sure you know when there are magic users around you, because those guys,
they'll come right in
work.
there. Yeah, and then you just. Yeah. I've died a few times that way.
But yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say, is keep track of how many sides of a person is open.
Yep.
Because, I mean, maybe one of your weaker players can take one hit from one person, but if they have 3 sides open, they might get attacked by 3 people, and then they're screwed.
Yeah, and depending on the territory, I mean, if you don't want to use pluses, or you can't for whatever reason, if there's a lot of ranged attacks, you can kind of keep a certain flank open if it's facing an edge of a map that can't be, sort of invaded. But then again, be careful, because one thing to note is characters talk, and sometimes they'll give you hints as to whether reinforcements are coming.
Yeah.
And like you'll assume a perimeter is totally clear, but someone said something about reinforcements, and sure enough, 3 turns into your battle, there's reinforcements.
Speaking of characters talking, if you're able to talk to a character, don't kill them,
because
that means you can recruit them to your team. And not only
Yeah.
is it one less enemy to take out, but then you have a new person on your side for that match.
Exactly. It's funny, actually, because we have people in the office that will skip over all that. But you can actually get some interesting thoughts and advice, and you'll get hints as to, oh, this character over here actually might switch over and switch sides. And then, getting one extra character during the course of a battle is actually
huge. It can
huge.
tilt the scales, so be careful about that. Next is to keep your weapons in top shape. One unique thing about a Fire Emblem is that as you fight, every time you use a weapon, it gets chipped down a little. You know what I mean? Just like real weapons, you have to keep them in top form. So after every battle, it's a good idea to check your inventory, replace weapons that need replacing, make sure everyone has a vulnerary, which is basically the heal item, and just keep an eye on that, because that can literally mean the difference between defeat or victory.
Yeah, and I'd also say, particularly with the vulnerary thing, make sure you have the right health for the right hero. Like, I mean, as you progress in the game, vulneraries only do 10 HP recovery, but elixirs and some other stuff like that will do much more. Concoctions will do a lot more, and there's nothing worse than dealing. This just happened to me, so it's fresh in my mind. But like being in a huge battle with big damage, because everyone's really powerful, and you're like, I'm gonna use a vulnerary, and I only recovered 10 HP, and then you're just screwed.
And if it's like early on or something, you don't have many like concoctions or elixirs that heal you more. Be careful about who you give them to. Like maybe you want to give them to one of your guys who can't take as many hits, because they're going to need more health recovery. You know what I mean? Whereas Frederick's probably fine with a vulnerary.
And the other thing is, you're only using, any given battle 6 to 10 of your characters, and if you're, depending on how you're playing or what you're doing, you probably have a lot more people. Make sure you take their stuff and give it to your other people. There's
take their equipment, take the vulneraries.
There's no point in those people having it. They're not battling, so don't be like, I need them to have all their stuff.
At the same time, if you do put one of those people back in, give them their equipment back. I learned that after when I was capturing for this today, after I recruited Marth, I didn't realize he didn't have any weapons.
Whoopsie.
So, oops. But yeah, keep a careful eye on your weapons. Keep them in top shape. Next is it's the last tip, but it sounds simple, but take your time. Don't rush into anything. Like, look over the map, look over the enemy's attack ranges, and plan ahead. Like, this is like a game of chess. It's not about doing it quickly. It's about doing it right, thinking about strategies and planning. So just don't rush yourself. You'll get the better experience, and you won't have to restart as much, which ends up taking more time. So.
Yeah, every now and then I'll be like, I can totally kill you, and I'm just so eager to kill something.
That might work out for the first couple of chapters, but you will die. Take your time. Think ahead.
Yeah, anytime I've ever rushed, and I do that a lot, I pay for it and reset, and I've reset a lot. So, Anyway, so that's our tips for Fire Emblem Awakening. Obviously, check out the review on IGN, and for all things Fire Emblem, including a lot of details on the DLC and footage of the DLC as it comes out in the weeks to come, stay tuned to IGN.
Later, Kooplings.